Hello, I'm Cass and I'm a horror baby.
We need to make sure we get a picture. Yeah, I've got a camera.
So when I played The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, I never expected to love it as much as I did, as the game is absolutely terrifying. I am sure the developers built it with the thought, okay, how do we stress our players the out? Yet it's one of the most fun I have ever had, and it quickly became one of my top favorite games next to Half-Life Alyx. Now Chapter 2 Retribution is out, so I was super curious if it would surpass my expectations or would it be more of the same. I've had early access, so I've been playing every evening and I'm ready to share my review of the Quest 2 version. I won't be showing you gameplay as usual, but instead I'll talk over it to explain the game. This is more in depth, so in the end you hopefully know whether you should buy this game even if you haven't played the first one. This is different from what I usually do, so let me know in the comments below whether or not you like this format. While you're at it, please subscribe if you want to learn more about VR tech and games. Leave me a like too, as that supports us tremendously, and now join me beyond reality. Chapter 2 is a sequel. It's the same size and scope as the first chapter, and it's a direct continuation of the story. Saints and Sinners is an action, adventure, and horror game. The game is set in post-apocalyptic New Orleans, where floodwaters cover the city, the undead dominate the streets, and the remaining survivors battle each other. You're known as the Tourist. In the previous chapter, you faced a brutal struggle to decide the fate of the coveted reserve. I won't spoil the story, so if you haven't played the first chapter yet, I highly recommend doing so, but you can play the sequel without having played the first one.
Oh, the heck? In the flesh.
In Chapter 2, the bill has come due on your past actions. You'll find yourself hunted by a new, seemingly unstoppable threat. This looming, armored juggernaut called the X-Men seems to be set on destroying you, but not before he creeps on you for his amusement throughout the game. I'm not kidding, you see him trying to sabotage whatever you do everywhere. A nice added pressure to keep you on your toes. This is what I loved about the first game. It has a fascinating, mysterious storyline that's fully voiced. Sometimes you make choices that might have irreversible consequences. The second game builds on that, although there are some differences. When you start the game, you can import your first game save to keep your progress. Unfortunately, I deleted my game to make space, so I can't tell you what's kept, but I love that it's possible, and now I know you can still survive without importing. The tutorial is the same as the first game, so if you've done it before, you don't need to do this again. It will show you the basic controls like the 7 on-body holsters for your backpack, weapons, and ammo. Once you start the campaign, the game will slowly introduce you back into it and give you some basic supplies and weapons. Not long after, you'll be back in the resting place. This is the player's hub where you can take a rest, craft items, and organize your backpack, and it's now much bigger, giving you more areas to store things and decorate. So the first thing I noticed is the graphics on Quest 2. It's not the best. It runs fine, aside from some bugs and crashes here and there, which I'll talk about in a bit, but to make it run okay, you can tell the developers had to downgrade the graphics by a lot. Now, of course, the Quest 2 hardware is the limiting factor here, and I think the devs had to choose gameplay or graphics, and they decided on gameplay, because even with bad graphics, I found the mechanics and sound design as well made up for it, and it was still immersive enough to make me feel my heart beating out of my chest at times.
Oh, I don't like this mode. Oh, shit, what the?
There's one thing you need to know about this game. It's dark, grey, and completely made to make you feel threatened all the time. The undead will find you unprepared if you don't watch your back, and they aren't even the most dangerous threat the living is, and you must figure out how to survive both. If you're familiar with the Walking Dead universe, you'll recognize this, as they kept true to that. So this is the game loop. The primary thing you'll do is follow the main storyline. If you open your notebook on the right side of your chest, you can view your objectives. There's a map here that shows you where to find the skiffs, which you use to teleport yourself to other city areas. This time, the places you've seen in the first chapter are already unlocked, so there's more freedom of where you want to go in between quests. To survive, you must go out and scavenge for loot that you can scrap using this bin back at your base. It will give you the necessary resources to craft useful items like more durable weapons. You craft by picking up a recipe on the cork boards and clicking the build button. You can also upgrade these boards to unlock more recipes or make your character stronger. In chapter 2, a lot is already unlocked, but you have to go out and loot to get all the new items and weapons. When you head out, there are two things you have to take into account: your health and stamina bar. Getting physical like sprinting, climbing or fighting will decrease your max stamina and make you hungry. To regain it, you need food and not the random dog food you'll find outside, because that will make you cough and you don't want that to happen in a zombie infested world. It's not tough maintaining everything, but only if you bring the items you need and are not overwhelmed by a herd. Of course, you don't have unlimited time to keep the tension up. Watch the clock on your wrist. It tells you how much time you have left before sunset. That's when the area will be overrun by a basically unsurvivable horde. Now you can only travel twice via a skiff before you're exhausted and have to go to sleep back at your camp. Going to sleep increases the day count, which means loot gets even more scarce and the undead rises in numbers. Yes, the longer you take in this game, the harder it gets. And to add even more pressure, the save states are also punishing. It only saves when you sleep or arrive at a new destination. When you die during a mission, your backpack will be dropped at your funeral. At this point, you can choose to restart the level entirely fresh from a save, or alternatively, continue the level but then with almost nothing to survive to try to reclaim your items. If your backpack is very far from the spawning area, reclaiming them is very challenging. This can be frustrating for people like me who die a lot. Imagine finally being able to make a chainsaw, then 45 minutes into a mission, I died and I can basically kiss it goodbye.
Where do I go? Oh, no. Oh! No! Are you kidding me?
What about combat? Just like in the series, the only way to kill a walker is to damage its brain. Now, every weapon has realistic weight in this game, so you cannot wiggle around your knife to kill an enemy. You actually need to use force to push the knife into the walker's brains to successfully kill them. I think this is the best zombie killing implementation in VR so far. Guns have their own realistic manual reloading mechanism, which adds to the tension. If you run out of ammo and the herd is trying to eat you, you gotta be fast. The combat is one of the things that sold the first game to me, and it's the same in the second game. But this time around, you get new, deadlier enemies and new weapons. I think the most anticipated ones are probably the laser sight and chainsaw. The laser sight is an attachment you can permanently attach to some guns and bows, and it does what it promises. It helps you aim more precisely and wastes fewer bullets. I love this one. The chainsaw is crazy fun. It makes you feel incredibly psycho as you can chop the walkers from any direction. The haptics and animations make it so satisfying to use. You can tell how much work the developers put into this mechanic, which turned out great aside from the occasional buggy walker behavior. It doesn't take long before you get to use them either, which is great as you can enjoy them for longer, but for that you do have to go to one of the most terrifying modes in the game. There is a new way to explore all the maps. During nighttime, you can use the flashlight on your left chest to turn on the UV light with the X button. With that, you can see things you can't normally see with normal lights, like different loot or hidden signs. I like this new addition, but man, I thought nighttime was already scary and this just makes it worse.
No. Oh.
In between the main storyline, there are times where you have to wait for something, so you're free to explore how you want, or you can do the new side missions. There's a new trade network system, and these are basically quests where you trade with the exiles, those who don't really belong to a faction, and by doing that, you go deeper into the story and you can gain rewards like weapons not available on the crafting tables. One other thing you can do in between missions is throughout the levels, you can find special collectibles that you can use to decorate your hub. You can actually place any item in there that will persist throughout the entire game, which is very cool, and doing this neatly is also kind of relaxing. Sometimes I use it for a much needed breather, and this all adds to the replayability of the game. Now before we move to my conclusion, let's talk about the early access build that I played and had some issues. I had textures acting weird, like blurriness appearing out of nowhere and long loading times, but these are known issues and are currently being worked on, so hopefully this will be patched in a day 1 update. I also found it weird to have walkers spawn out of nowhere, sometimes right on the spot where I was. So much fun.
Hey, scissors! What the heck? He wasn't here before.
I think the game is comfortable and it has okay options for most, like you can play seated and you can grab items from afar. The only thing I wish I could do is moving my waist pockets, as it was in the way a lot when I tried picking up items. Besides that, this all comes together in a cohesive package of smart ways to build tension and pushing you to plan things. The core mechanics of the first game is pretty much the same, and I get that, why change what was already good? But sometimes that makes me feel the missions can get a bit repetitive. I wish there was more variety there, but I found it surprising for a horror baby that I did not want to stop playing, because the new storyline was just as interesting as the first one. The sequel is good at keeping you playing because this entire time you're anticipating and preparing to face the big boss and you want to know how it ends. Plus, the new weapons did add more variety, and I can't say it enough, the chainsaw is freaking awesome. And almost every time after a successful mission, I can feel my whole body shaking from the adrenaline I got, which makes up for a lot. Not many games can make me feel like that, so despite the bad graphics, I highly recommend this game. If you have a gaming PC, I would recommend waiting for the PC VR version unless you're scared as well, cause the Quest 2 graphics actually help with that. So the previous game had about 10 hours of playtime. This sequel doubles that. Plus, we already know the first game got 3 new modes, like a horde mode, which should add to the playtime, but I couldn't find this in this second game, but hopefully this comes later. The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners Chapter 2 Retribution by Skydance Interactive releases on Quest 2 today, December 1st. PC VR is planned for February 2023, followed by PSVR 2 on March 21st. The base game will be $40 and there will be a payback edition for $50, which includes extra cosmetic items like new weapon crafting recipes and collectibles. You need a lot of space for this game. On Quest 2 you need a whopping 15 gigs and on PC VR you need 57 gigs, but the latter might still change. And that's it for today. What do you think about this game, and are you getting it? I would also love to know if you like this format for reviews, because your opinion matters to me, so let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to join our Discord for the key giveaway. There is a link in the description, and thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and like to support us, and a special thanks go to all our champions, and I will see you in VR.